All right. Hello, everyone. It's Norbert Orlowitz here, back again with another quick interview session here. And today I've got a special guest. This is a lady who's been working with us, one of our students. And, I ran into her actually just recently, a couple of months back at a live event. And she shared with me, a personal success story in her business. And she's really been growing her business over the last year or so and really starting to generate success, results, and building momentum in her business. So I wanted to bring her on here and have her share with you specifically what has helped her, what were the big turning points for her, and how she was able to come out of that place of struggle, frustration, and overwhelm, and actually create some results and start creating some momentum in her business. So with that, I want to introduce Lisa Thompson. Lisa, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Norbert. Thank you for asking.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Lisa, why don't you start out and just give everyone just a really quick, brief introduction of who you are and how you got started in this industry, what brought you to this place?
Okay, well, first of all, I came from a family of entrepreneurs and small business owners. My mom's parents, they ran a butcher shop, and my dad's parents, they started what was called a land title company, like an abstract company where they sold land title insurance. So I've always seen the having a small business and what it did for the community and how it brought people together. And I also saw kind of the bad with it, where my mom would wind up spending a lot of time. They would be doing things like payroll in the evening when we would get home from work, and taxes and bookkeeping. And so that took a toll. And eventually they sold that business because my brother and I really didn't want to pursue the land title, or what they called the abstract company. And I wound up going into getting a PhD in education just about 10 years ago. And what was the turning point for me, I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit of wanting to have something of my own. But things changed back in 2008 when my husband wound up being laid off from his job, and I was trying to figure out, I was the sole income earner, so we were thinking, what are we going to be able to do to create some money? So I started looking at a home-based business, but I only treated it as a hobby. And then in 2010, it was a big wake-up call when my dad, right before when he was 64 years old, suffered a real catastrophic accident where he became a quadriplegic. And that was really a huge kind of a waking up in a cold sweat because, you know, uh, he wasn't yet ready to retire, and here my mom and dad were making these plans to retire, and all of a sudden he gets this debilitating injury, and he sadly passed away almost a year to the day of sustaining it. But I just remember being with my mom and going to the estate attorneys looking at how they were going to determine their assets, and I was just thinking, my goodness, we're all one, healthcare or a medical accident or something that could, really wipe you out. And what would happen to me if I suffered a debilitating injury? How could I provide for my family? So that's when I began to do things in earnest. But the challenge for me is that there's so much stuff on the internet that you would be in this constant getting ready to get ready, and no sooner than you would buy one course, it was outdated, and then you would try to get another course. And so it became this vicious cycle of shiny object syndrome. And then it wasn't until May of 2013 when I finally met you and your partners, Todd and Brian Finale, Todd Schlomer, that really kind of taught me what it needs to be to attraction marketing and how to use that to set yourself apart from the marketplace.
Awesome, awesome. What an incredible story, and an interesting background as well, with you being a PhD in education and then moving into entrepreneurship. Out of necessity, out of life events that have happened, and so many people. I can't tell you how many times I have heard that line. And then things changed in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
I have heard I've heard that line so many times from so many
Mhm.
people. So let's talk about now, okay, so you get online and you brought up a lot of the common challenges that a lot of people in this industry online find, which is there's so much information, there's so many different ideas, so many ways to do this. How do I know? What are the steps? Just give me the steps. What are the things that I need to focus on? What was that shift for you? What was that big breakthrough that happened from that point of overwhelm and just utter confusion to finally starting to be able to put those pieces together?
It was an evolution, Norbert, when that happened with me. And I remember when I first became a part of what your coaching and services opportunity, when your partner Brian Finale, I was on a webinar and he was teaching how you can use webinars to add value. And out of the clear blue, he didn't know me, I didn't know him. He pulls me out and created my first webinar like in 5 minutes, and I was like, wow, this is one of the leaders, and he's working with me. And so it was like, if he spent this time working with me and believing in me that I could do this, and I went and I did like my first webinar a week later, and it was a free webinar, and it went really well. I had like 23 people come, and they
Wow.
stayed throughout the 2.5-hour webinar, but it was a great learning experience. And then I began to attend trainings, and I went and I found other leaders who I could connect with, and it's a matter of just being plugged into something that is going to teach you, and then focusing on like one strategy and really being consistent with it. So I started with Google Plus, and I just was generating a couple of leads with what you and Brian and Todd were teaching, and I wound up getting consistent leads with that. And once I started doing that, then I started a blog, and I just was consistent writing like one blog post every day, and I did it. I wasn't going to go to bed at night until I did that blog post. And I kept being consistent. I kept learning. And what happened was, and the big breakthrough came was when you guys had a real special coaching program that went for 5 months, like a real deep mentorship. And so and it was almost a year to the day when we had that. And you were the first speaker that set everything up with the mindset. And you were really talking about how to tap into your passion and what do you love. Because that's where it has to come from. When you're branding yourself, you really have to, share more of you, not trying to go out and sell people, which is what all these other programs do, and you become lost in that noise.
Yeah.
And one thing that you tapped on with me is that I always loved to learn. And when I was in college, I created study guides for my friends back when Apple and the first computers were coming out. I had a little computer, and I would type up study guides when we had exams, and I just shared them with people because I felt I wanted them to succeed and pass their exams just as much as I did. So what happened was, I didn't figure out how to monetize it back then, but I had everybody, and everybody loved them. But then something happened once I graduated from school and I began my job and everything, and then I developed this real debilitating belief in the effect that if I started sharing knowledge with other people and then they took it and became successful, they will get all the money, they'll get all the influence, and I'll be kind of left in the dark. And
Wow.
so that became a huge, debilitating, limiting belief for me for the longest time. And then when you were talking about how to tap into what it was before, or your passions, I realized, what? I love to learn, but I totally shut off the sharing part, and that's a real important component of teaching, is you have to share what you're learning. And I realized I became a very selfish learner. So
Mm.
when I let go of that limiting belief, and then you were helping me through that, and it's like, maybe you need to start creating content, like doing your cliff notes from webinars and things you're attending and sharing that with people. you're going to probably see a big growth in your business. And that's exactly what happened. I took your advice and I just started sharing what I've been learning on the weekly, Wednesday webinars that your company offers, and attending events and trainings, and just sharing what I've been learning. And that's when the reciprocation happened. So that was probably the biggest breakthrough that really set the stage for everything else that happened in the years since we had that.
That is awesome. It's such a powerful story and such a powerful lesson. I was actually just the interview that I was just finished right before we got started. I was talking with Lena Bjorna, and she was sharing with me how important it is to position yourself as a leader, online when you're building your brand. And one of the questions that I asked her was, well, that sounds great, but what if you're brand new? What if you're just getting started? How do you do that? And what you just shared with us right here is exactly what we were just talking about. And you've just simply applied it. And what I love about you, Lisa, is that you actually take action. When you're given advice and you're given ideas, you take action. Brian took you up and you guys put together that webinar, and you said the next week you held your first webinar.
Yeah. And that was, I realized that, with the way the universe operates and the way, success likes speed, money likes speed, yes. When you immediately take action, it just gives you that momentum to keep going. And then pretty soon, what I've learned with human behavior, and I've always been a huge fan of Tony Robbins, and he always talked about when you always engage in a habit, whether it's good or bad, if you perform it for 21 straight days, it becomes so ingrained in you that it almost becomes effortless. So if you set yourself up with taking action every day, even if it's just 3 simple things at first, whether it's just writing that, like I did, writing that blog post every single day, pretty soon you're just like, I need to get that blog post done. And boom, you get it done a lot quicker, your creativity's quicker, and then you're able to start adding other things to your business so you don't have that overwhelm. And you have to fight the urge of overwhelm, trying to jump to other things, but just stay with that one thing first until you see, a good result and get that, get kind of your traction and treading going. Amazing
advice. Really very clear, very specific advice. It really is, we talk about that all the time. We say take action, take massive action. And it's just about taking one thing and being consistent with it and developing, like you said, developing that habit, right? I mean, most of us, depending on where we're coming from in our backgrounds, we've never created content. We haven't created videos or tutorials or blog posts. I mean, this is all new stuff to us. And the only way to to make it a consistent thing in our business is we have to make it into a habit, right? So tell me a little bit, right now, since that big shift, that big change for you, I mean, just the way you speak, the way you present yourself on camera, you seem like a completely different person to me. Like you possess a level of confidence and leadership that wasn't there when we spoke, what was it, a year ago back when we did that training. So it's amazing to see the transformation. So tell me a little bit, what's your business like right now? What are you focused on now? And what is it that's creating results for you?
Well, as I've been going through my, it's an evolution of how I've been building my brand. And so what's happened now is, I always called myself, using the doctor part in my branding. I'm calling myself the digital marketing doctor, and I'm now moving more from being like just saying healthy and profitable websites to being an exposure agent to help people brand themselves, and they become an authority in the marketplace, where I'm trying to help them, develop their own voice, and what's happened is that I've been cultivating my voice, and over the last 6 months I've really been focused on Instagram, because I met with one of the Instagram experts, April Marie Tucker, and I met her through your coaching program with you and Brian and Todd, and it was just And she just taught a lot of great things, but she also tapped into a major memory of mine. And this is something that I've been telling people now, that, there's always these four main traffic strategies, are for content, video, blogging, pictures, or doing articles, and a lot of times we can tap into our childhood about something about, or in our young adult lives about a strategy that, it can connect you to a memory in your story. And that's what I was lacking in the last 6 months. And when I started meeting with April, Instagram connected me to a story with my grandmother who, she was in the Legion Auxiliary and was in charge of promotions for their major fundraising, which was their pork chop and sauerkraut dinner. And they would sell out constantly. And this was before internet and all this high tech. She did low tech memes where she would go to the drugstore, get poster boards, and ask my mom and my aunts for the Ladies' Home Journal, Good Housekeeping magazines, and would make these ads or memes, cutting out pictures of dogs from the puppy chow and cats and babies, and would make these fun little promotional things for the event. And those pork chop dinners would sell out before the dinner service because she would go around to these business owners and they would gladly put up the poster boards. But here was the amazing thing, Norbert, is my grandmother sadly passed away in 2007, but I was going through her stuff about a few months ago, and I came across some condolence cards from some of the local merchants. And they, and I was looking for those, poster cards, as I was going through her stuff, and there wasn't any. And the reason why is that the merchants hung on to them. And one of them wrote back and said, we had triple the floor traffic when she came in and put those poster boards in, and we put them in our windows because people were attracted to those poster boards. So, and then they wound up doing things where they wound up getting triple the business because they're like, oh, we'll offer some, if they come with their ticket from the meal, we'll offer them like a discount. So they wound up making money too when my grandmother, and she didn't realize that she was doing this. And so when I'm doing Instagram right now, I feel like I'm carrying on her legacy, but I'm doing it on a global scale, helping people. So I've been incorporating that story into my marketing, and that's just been like, I'm getting people going, oh, I love your story about your grandma, So now I've missed that piece, and so now that I've had that, I'm getting, I'm never running out of people to talk to for my business, and I realize, that there's a time and season when people are going to come in, and so as long as I'm keeping good value and I'm sharing a story and teaching them how to connect to a story. Maybe they have a story about getting their first VCR, video recorder or camera, or maybe they wrote for the school paper, and having them connect to that, that's the best way to find your content strategy, is to tap into that. And like I said, when you taught me how to tap into what I love, subconsciously that was there, but it didn't come through until I met up with April. So I believe in that whole serendipity.
That's beautiful. What an awesome story, and I love that connection to your grandma and her being a promoter and marketer. And here you are doing the same thing on Instagram. That's awesome. So
Yeah.
Listen, Lisa, let's wrap this up. And what I'd love for you to do is just maybe share with the viewers. I'm sure a lot of them have been in your position. The struggle, the frustration, the overwhelm. So many things to do and not sure what to focus on. What advice could you give them as far as what do you need to focus on? What should you be focusing on right now to be able to start to take those steps to create results? What do you need in your business? What do you really recommend that people have in their business?
I think first right now they have to start establishing their brand and be an authority in the marketplace by picking one thing, learning about it, and doing the invest, learn, and teach model. So even when you're first getting started, just saying, hey, I'm starting my business now, and this is what I'm doing, and just connecting with people. Be authentic, don't sell, but share. And when you start doing that and you just share these aha moments, all of a sudden people are going to start to take notice, and they're going to be like, and then they're going to root for you, because everyone loves a rooting story with someone coming up against overwhelming odds to be successful. And rather than, if you're telling stories about what you're doing, I think keeping it in a story format rather than a selling format is going to help you. And then find, and when you're doing that, find a mentor who really resonates with you and get around them. That's probably the biggest thing that's helped me, is you'll find mentors that'll come through, and if you find one that really resonates with you, stick with them, get on their list, follow them on social media, get in their space, and take action, because that's how the leaders will notice you, and then they're going to start bringing you into things and then teaching you more. So it all starts there.
Awesome. Awesome. Great advice. Lisa, thank you so much for this amazing short interview here. You've just delivered so much value and great training. I learned a lot from this interview myself, so I know that the people watching will take away a lot of golden nuggets from it as well. And I'd love to see, somebody like yourself who's just like anybody else on there trying to start an online business with your own story, your own background, your own challenges, and you've taken all of that and created, an awesome brand, and you're just applying what you've learned, what you've been learning from the people that have gone before you. So it's awesome to see. I congratulate you on your success, and I'm excited to see how your business grows over the next year with everything that you're doing. So congrats, and thank you so much for being here, Lisa.
Thank you, Norbert.
All right, awesome, guys. So if you liked the interview, please comment below. Share this interview as well with your network. Get this information out there. We'd love for you to do that. Share and comment below. We'll see you in the next interview. All right.